Here we are talking now about children in the West and what you should tell them. And this was a really pertinent conversation because uh, we have so many. And by the way, this lovely couple, you should know, is personally responsible for these people being together and the beautiful sons and daughters of the West that they rear. Let's hear it for Yiz the Unifier for that. God bless her. She brought these wonderful people together. They're going to be inoculating their children against anti-whiteism. That's the defense. That's what's going to work. And we've come through so many years, so many iterations of so much stupidity. And I shared a story about disagreements that I had with a respectable friend, Jared Taylor, over the years. Fervent disagreements over what you say and should say to your white children. And he has always been of the mind over the years that, no, you don't tell them what to think. Because if you tell them what to think about the world, then they will resent you for that. And I said the exact opposite. I said, you tell them what to think, because if you don't, others will. I said, you tell them that the world hates them, that the world is after us. And I know you might say, especially if you're a white woman or a male who's essentially a woman, with a lot of white boys out there. I mean, let's just, not many white men, a lot of white boys. I'm sorry about that, ladies. Anti-whiteism has done that. Maybe you played a part with a little bit of the feminist anti-whiteism. But they get nervous about, like, no, you can't tell children that the world hates them, that there's all these anti-whites and this anti-white ideology, and they want to harm them. And I said, you must tell them. They can adapt. They can acclimate. They will understand the world. And Jared disagreed with me. You don't want to tell them that. You'll make them loony. You'll make them nuts. I disagreed. I wanted to know the truth. When I found things out about the world that I had to discover on my own, I had wished I had known the truth. I had fought my inner, the demons that I had been infected with, that I had been possessed, these anti-white demons that had been infused into me from every direction in society. I had to battle those demons and not hate my parents, because they were telling me to hate my parents. They were telling me that the older you go in the white race, the more evil white people are, the more harm they've done, the better that they've had it on the sweat and tears of non-white people from time immemorial. From antediluvian times, it's been nothing but the white race burning up these poor non-white people and taking advantage of them. And it was only by the grace of Prometheus himself, God in heaven, it was only by his grace that I was able to see through the anti-whiteism, to use reason and logic, and to figure out and to ask questions, and to be naive about it, and to not give a damn what people thought about my naivete, and to push and to probe, and to not take these forceful reproaches from these misandristic, anti-white females, these harridans that leaned over us when we were children with their hideousness, their jackbooted thug hideousness, their pear-shaped hideousness, and they're like, you will, with their fat fingers, you will obey, you will just accept, you will be anti-white because anything else is evil. And what, you care about white people? What are you, some kind of Hitler? What are you, some kind of Ku Klux Klaner? They say to the 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old white child, God stepped in and said, don't fall for this. So I argued, absolutely not. I used my processing power that the white race gave to me to dig into what was being claimed by those malefactors, those inflictors of the blackest child abuse the world has ever known. And I dug through that morass. I got into that swamp, and I found the truth. I found that it would be much better to tell white children the reality of the world, to arm us. And I realized, Because if we are armed with an understanding of anti-whiteism, if we are using the key concepts in service to white well-being, if we are empowered with the mean curatives that we teach here, when we go into school and the teachers begin to teach us how evil the white race is, and how since antediluvian times, all of our ancestors, especially the parents that you have lorded over and lived a life of ease as a consequence of lording it over the anti-whites. I and all of the rest of the white children would have seen it for what it is. And we would know at that moment that our parents had told us the truth about the world, that there are anti-white monsters in the world, that there is an anti-white ideology. And instead of what we see happen in so many places, where the white children rebel, this great energy turns into destructive energy, this natural energy to emulate what our parents have done is turned to destructive purposes. And they come back and rebel. And then we're told by a bunch of anti-white psychologists that that's natural. It's normal for your white children to want to destroy what's gone before. My friends, I was able to discern as a child, if that were normal, then none of our civilizations, none of our empires would have ever been built. The only way you can build something great and glorious is to, first of all, appreciate that you are a scion of that glory, and then to build on top of, never to tear down. The tearing down is part of anti-whiteism. So I went into the circles of the white sympathetic sphere, and I went to my friends like Jared, and I made these arguments, and they said, no, Jason, no, that's wrong. No, it's not going to work. No, do not tell the children that they can handle the truth, that there is anti-whites and anti-whiteism. What will happen if you tell white children that the world is against them, that the world is filled with irrational, illogical, anti-white haters of Western kind? What will happen? They'll go crazy. They'll become antisocial. They won't want to achieve. And I said, my friends, isn't that not what you're already seeing with the white race? Is that not what you already witness? All that you say will come about as a consequence of heeding what I am admonishing you to do. Isn't that exactly what you see? No, what I'm admonishing will be the opposite. It will achieve the opposite outcome. And they still disagreed. And they would insult me. Jason, you don't have kids, so how could you know? Really? Do you have any baby ostriches? Do you rear ostrich? Does anybody? No. I guess nobody's given birth to an ostrich, so therefore nobody can speak on them. Therefore, nobody could learn about an ostrich. Nobody could learn about a saber-toothed tiger. Nobody could learn about any of our areas of scientific pursuit and then be able to speak authoritatively on it because they haven't given birth to it, because they haven't reared it from a hatchling, because they haven't, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can use reason. I can use logic. I can use the powerful processing abilities that the Spirit of the West has given me to come to conclusions that you are unable to disprove with reason and logic. Furthermore, we have the evidence of your failures. So I dug in. I dug my heels in. I knew this was the way to go. I knew this is what you had to tell your children, so that when they saw it in the world, they came back to their parents and looked at their parents as living gods, rather than going to school and being taught by the media and being taught by the movies how evil the white race is, and then going home and hearing their parents share a conservative belief, and then seeing the parents as the demon and saying, aha, my teacher warned me about you. Aha, I learned in that movie that I watched about how the older generations of white people work, the older they are on the screen. And don't be a fool. Don't be a fool and think that the teacher had to show an old person and say, these are the more evil than the young. No, there's sitcoms, there are movies that they're watching, the video games even that they're playing. Who are the most evil? It's the older white people. It's the older white people. We know the tropes. It's the Southern accented, the British accented, the German accented. It's the fit Germanic featured, the strong white people that are evil. And always it is a looking to the past, a looking to a return to something, to go back to some level of exploitation when whites were sitting on plantations and all they did was fan themselves and drink mint julep and lemonade and live off the servitude. Every single white person that's ever lived, that's how they lived. The white children are learning and going home and finding out that their teachers were right, that their sport coach was right, that their troop leader was right, that the movies are right. Mom and dad are evil. And then mom and dad, once these kids reach to their early teens and they begin to start rebelling against mom and dad, they hate the norms of the West. They hate our customs. They hate everything that we have carried from the past, and any shred of it that is visible in mom and dad and grandmother and grandfather and uncle and aunt, any bit of it that is visible, they see as exploitation. They see as that which needs to be white erased. The evidence is everywhere. Something interesting happened. Back, way back in the day, at AMRIN conferences, C-SPAN used to come and air the conference. Other mainstream media would speak about it, come and interview. And Jews would occasionally come and speak. And these old conferences were different than the newer conferences that I argued fervently to change, and Sam Dixon argued fervently to change, because you would sit down and you would sit there sometimes for 2 hours as some professorial gentleman, academic, would drone on and on soporifically until you were literally contemplating having to shave or commit suicide for hours. And then there would be a Q&A. People would step up to a microphone, or in the old days, there was a guy at these AMRIN conferences that would run around with a microphone, and he would come pass it out. He would give it to you. He would stand there with you. And I remember there were at least 2 times that the only people that agreed with me about how to raise children were 2 Jews. How did we find out? I didn't know these guys, but they had given speeches at American Renaissance. And when they were done with their speeches, the people who got up to ask, invariably, in both of those cases, asked, how is it that you all are able to raise such loyal children? We're able to, for millennia, raise children that even though you are this minority in these host countries all around the West, all across the West, you raise such loyal children. How is it? They said the same thing I did. The same thing I had concluded. They said, we teach them that the world is against them. The world is irrational with its hatred against them. Almost verbatim what young Jason, was arguing should be done for white children. We teach them that you're not going to be able to argue the rest of the world out of. You're not going to be able to appease the rest of the world. You're not going to be able to placate the rest of the world out of and irrational hatred of us. So you need to work together, stick together, help each other out, and achieve positions of power to protect yourselves and each other. My God. I thought in my youth that, wow, I guess I'll be listened to now. Y'all know better. No. If anything, some of the white people at these conferences were even more against what I argued. Why? Because Jews did it. I said, they have thousands of years of success. Yeah, but they do it. This is the stupidity of the white race. This is the abject stupidity, the squalid, ignorant ass, backward ass stupidity of the white race. We can't do what works because this group that we don't like does it. And I said, they'll continue kicking your ass then. They said, but Jason, don't you realize that the Jews, they're all neurotic. And that's because of what their parents are telling them. Well, I would rather have a neurotic, white positive environment than white people who are fully acclimated to an anti-white system. Give me some of that neuroticism. We shared a meme here before we got started with the white race skyrocketing in suicides. Males, the white males. But no, we need to be well adjusted to an viciously anti-white system. That's the way to go. Furthermore, they couldn't see. They couldn't see legitimate leadership. They couldn't see legitimate ideas from somebody who was physically fit. And we've been down that road before, but especially there. The most effete, the most sick, the most similar, will just be nice, to the kinds of characters who play the smart people in movies. That's who they want to listen to. That's who they want to heed. The smaller, the weaker, the sicker, the more value they place on the opinions of those people. I hammered the point home over the years and mentioned it at our picnic, our exclusive picnic. Our children want to side with the victim. It's instinctual. They want to defend the victim. They want to fight for the victim. And white parents, grandparents are giving that title, that truth, away to anti-whiteism and the non-white world. That's what our children end up being told. These other groups are the victims. And it doesn't matter how many intelligent or half-assed glib arguments you make to your kids about why these people might be in a bad state here or in a bad state there, or whatever it is, you lose. You teach our children that anti-whiteism is in the world. It's everywhere. It's dominant. It's ascendant. Anti-whites are everywhere, but there are heroes too. And we need to stick together. And there are more heroes every single day across the West. There are more white people with intelligence, economic power, security, more white people with connections to marvelous human capital. And there are more every single day coming to the realization of what the world is for Western kind. So you need not fear the totality of the world. You need to be a hero for our people. You're going to go out into this world and you're going to live a productive life. You're going to build yourself a beautiful family, a firm foundation. And with every one of those steps over the course of your life, you will serve white positivity. You will serve white well-being, and you will find an increasing number of allies because you all have the eyes to see and the intelligence to know. All of those anti-whites out there are dumb, dirty, illogical animals. You can't reason with them. You can't placate them. You have to be ascendant relative to them. You have to have the power over them. It was no surprise after being motivated to investigate Jewish family structures after these, the second Jewish guy had spoke. I think it was 2 years after the first one. And so that was, for me, it wasn't like one Jewish guy was confirming what I said white people needed to do. But now there was a second one. So I thought, that really must be what they do. They really must be what logically is the smartest thing to do for your people. To be a people rather than selfish individualists. Come to find out, I'm 100% right. Now, they have some, obviously, you can look into it for yourself, some really negative, especially by way of some of their religious teachings, that are irrelevant for the achievements that they reach. What matters is, for the children, is the knowledge that the world has people who hate us irrationally. They're anti-whites because of our birth, because of who we are. And this attendant and must be included in these conversations is that you cannot placate them. You cannot appease them. Their claims of injury are false. You can hear them. When you hear them, you know what they are. And then you take the intelligent steps because you are the thinking members of society. You take the intelligent steps that you have to take to ensure the well-being of our people and therefore yourself. If you are a white parent, or you're going to be, grandparent, uncle, aunt, whatever it's going to be, godfather, godmother, and you believe there's another path to get to the well-being of our people and the well-being of those children, you're a goddamn fool. All of the evidence is there for you to see from the past. Now, you can either heed what I'm saying because you can follow the logic or potentially follow the logic. You can just see that bright people realize and adopt this logic. You can see the successes of other groups of mankind, and you can go the right way. You can go the successful way. You can be the part of the white race that makes it through the bottleneck, which is where we started here, or you can go to hell with the rest of the white race. There's no other way. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but white parents that I disagreed with all the way back in the day have reared children that more than half of their children hate them. More than half of the children they gave birth to, or if it's two, one of them hates their parents or the one that is white sympathetic. More than half of them have gone anti-white. You don't need for me to point this out to you. You should be able to figure it out for your own. Tell our children. Tell them that there are heroes in the world and that heroes are joining the fight every single day. if you tell them this, then the future Austins of the world, the future Austin Metcalfs, will know exactly what's happening under that tent at the track field. And he'll go home that day. And that interaction with that anti-white POS will further steal everything that you've taught him, will further harden everything that you've taught him. And he, with that 4.0, will go out into the world, will build himself a life with a wonderful family and a firm base. And he will touch the lives of those around him for white well-being. And he will improve countless white families. And the children that he sires and educates in that narrative will live in Eden again. You don't teach that? You want to just tell them about the maypole? You want to just tell them about the crime stats? He's going to end up stabbed and dead. He's going to end up, daughter's going to end up marrying a non-white guy. Son's going to become a transgender. And he'll capitulate.